Hey guys, welcome back. Let us learn class 9, chapter 2, geography, that is physical features of India, part 2. So in this video we are going to learn northern plains. So here you can see in this picture, the northern plains has been formed by the interplay of three major river systems. So these three major river systems are the Indus, the Brahmaputra and the Ganga. So along with these three rivers and their tributaries, the northern plains has been formed. So this plain is formed of alluvial soil and the deposition of alluvium in a vast basin lying at the foothills of the Himalaya over millions of years. So it has formed this fertile plain. It is spread over an area, it acquired like 7 lakh square kilometers, and the plain being about 2400 kilometers long and 240 to 320 kilometers broad in their width. Okay, so is a densely populated physiographic division. So because the main reason is water facility will be available for the populated people. So okay, with the rich soil and it will be useful for the agriculture, and yes, the soil cover combined with the adequate water supply and favorable climate, it is agriculturally a very productive. So where the main thing is water facility will be available, so densely populated will be situated in that area. So coming to the next point, that is Majuli. So you can hear this Majuli island where it is situated in Assam. You can see in this map, I have been pointing this one, and in Majuli in the Brahmaputra river is the largest inhabited island in the world. So what are the high points of this Majuli island? So it is the biggest of the riverine island on the Brahmaputra, and it's very country sceneries and rustic wooden boats and emerald rice fields and bamboo homes are attracting the people, and an art and cultural hotbed for the Assamese, that is Vaishnavitic philosophy. So they are adopted Vaishnavitic philosophy, and their a very famous festival, that is November Ras Leela. So thus the people, they are celebrating Ras Leela festival in the great draw to Majuli, and it is closer look to the home architectural style. So here Majuli is disappearing at an alarming rate due to the rampant soil erosion. So because of the soil erosion, it will be disappearing. And home to the native tribal communities are the Messinings and Dioris and the Sonwal Kancharis. And Majuli is famous for its traditional mosques, and it was in that Majuli the famous Dakshinapad Satra was built in 1584. So you want to reach that one. So drivability, that is about 335 kilometers from the Guwahati. From there you can drive down or take a straight bus to Jorhat, which is the closest rail head to the Majuli. So this is the information about Majuli island. And the second one is the northern plains. And the third one is northern plains. So here the northern plains is broadly divided into three sections. So those are, the western part of the northern plain is referred to as a Punjab plains, and they are formed by the Indus and its tributaries. You can see in this map, so the river Indus and their tributaries. The largest part of the plain lies in Pakistan. So this river Indus or northern plains lies in the Pakistan, largest part, and along with this the Indus and its tributaries, we can say the Jhelum, river Jhelum and the river Chenab and river Ravi and the river Beas and Satluj. So these are originated in the Himalayas, and this section is dominated by the domes. Here dome means water, to water. So which means dome is a piece of land which is drained by two water bodies. So that we will call dome. Another one is the Ganga plain extends between Ghaggar and Testa rivers. It's spread over North India like Haryana, Punjab, Bihar, and partly Jharkhand also, and obviously that it's east, particularly in Assam lies on the Brahmaputra plain. So you can see in this map. So there is quite a bit of variety of relief features in the northern plain. It can be divided into 4 regions, that is Bhagar, Terai, Bhangar and Khadar. So the Bhagar region is a narrow belt of level surface lying parallel to the slope of Shivaliks. It's about 8 to 16 km in width and consists of pebbles deposited by the rivers. And streams and rivers re-emerge and create a wet, and they will be swampy and marshy regions known as Terai. So the largest part of the northern plain is formed of old alluvium and lie above the foot plains of the rivers and present a terrace-like features. So this part is also known as Bhangar. So the neighbor Engar and deposits of the floodplains are called Khadar. So here you can see this two divisions of the northern plains on basis of relief features. So this is called Bhabar, which is mentioned in the pictures, and Bhangar, and Terai means it looks like this, and Khadar. So the northern plains are generally described as flat land with no variations in its relief. So you can see this flat lands with no variations in its relief. It is not true that these vast plains also have diverse relief features. So according to the variations in the relief features, the northern plains can be divided into 4 regions. Those are Bhabar, Terai and Khadar and Bhangar. So these are the 4 divisions. So here what is mean by the Bhabar? So the rivers after descending from the mountains, they deposit pebbles in a narrow belt. You can see this pebbles and all in the pictures of about 8 km to 6 km in the width, lying parallel to the slopes of the Shivalik is known as Bhabar. So these are called as Bhabar, and the northern plains here plain is very productive and fertile and rich in minerals, and rainfall is heavy in this plains, and agriculture is main occupation in these regions. So the Terai region in the northern plains of India, it consists of wet, swampy and marshy land. You can see the marshy lands and the swampy lands. So these are the forest areas and these are the plain areas. So geologically we find great physical variations on earth re-emerge and create a wet, swampy and marshy region known as a Terai. So these both places regions we will call as a Terai. So Terai region lies between Yamuna and Brahmaputra rivers. And in this along with this we have to understand national park in the Uttar Pradesh. So Dudhwa National Park. So Dudhwa National Park is the national park in the Terai region of Uttar Pradesh. It is located on the Indo-Nepal border in the Lakhimpur Kheri district, and has buffer of reserved forest area on the northern and southern sides. So it represents one of the few remaining examples of highly diverse and productive Terai. In this Terai region we can find the national park that is called Dudhwa National Park. So here ecosystem supporting a large number of endangered species and obligate species of tall wet grasslands and also animals. And coming to the Bhangar, so it is a older alluvium of the plains, and it has kankar and clay are found in this soil, and it is not renewable frequently. So features I am talking about Bhangar, and it is less fertile and it is found away from the rivers. So we can find this Bhangar in the northern plains. Coming to the Khadar. So what are the features of this Khadar? It is a younger alluvium of the plains, and it is renewed year after year. It is found near and in the course of rivers and flood plains. It is fine one and it is more fertile. So these are the difference between Bhangar and Khadar. So coming to the formation of Gondwana. So it was formed due to the breaking and drifting of the Gondwana land. So you can see these pictures, that is Gondwana land. Before, in the previous video we talked about Gondwana land. So it was spread off after this. Presently it will looks like this. So hence it is a part of the oldest landmass. So it was spread erosion plates, then it will looks like this. So the Peninsular Plateau is a tableland composed of the old crystalline, igneous and metamorphic rocks. It was formed due to the breaking and drifting of the Gondwana land. As we talked about breaking and drifting of the Gondwana land, the Peninsular Plateau was formed. So the plateau has broad and shallow valleys and rounded hills. So this plateau consists of two broad divisions, namely the Central Highlands and the Deccan Plateau. And the Vindhyan range is bounded by the Central Highlands on the south and the Aravalli on the northwest. So the eastward extension of this plateau are locally known as Bundelkhand and Bhagelkhand. The Deccan Plateau is the triangular landmass that lies to the south of the river Narmada. So what are the divisions of the Peninsular Plateau? So you can see this Peninsular Plateau in this map, and here we can classify two types, that is Central Highlands and Deccan Plateaus. So here the Central Highlands comes like the Malwa Plateau, the Bundelkhand and Bhagelkhand and the Chota Nagpur. And the Deccan Plateau, it will come the Deccan Trap, the Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats and the Northeast Plateau extension. So what is the characteristics of the Bhagelkhand? It is located to the east of the Bhagelkhand Plateau. The Bhagelkhand is the region of the central India in northern eastern Madhya Pradesh and the adjacent south part of the Uttar Pradesh. So the total area is 14,323 square meters. And coming to the Chota Nagpur Plateau. So the Chota Nagpur Plateau is a plateau in eastern India which covers much of Jharkhand. So it is situated in Jharkhand state as well as adjacent part of Orissa, West Bengal and Bihar and Chhattisgarh also. So the Deccan Plateau is a triangular landmass. You can see in this picture, so it looks like a triangular landmass that lies to the south of river Narmada. And the Satpura range, you can see this Satpura range flanks its broad base in the north, while the Mahadev, the Kaimur Hills and the Maikal range form its eastward extension. So it is higher in the west and slopes gently eastwards. So its northeast extension is locally known as a Meghalaya. So you can see in this map Meghalaya and Karbi Anglong Plateau and the North Kaker Hills. It is separated by the fault from the Chota Nagpur Plateau. You can see in this Chota Nagpur plateau above the in middle of the map. So three prominent hills range from the west to east are the Garo Hills and Kashi and Jainitia Hills. These are the three hills in Western Ghats. Coming to the Western Ghats, so Western Ghats lie parallel to the western coast. Can see in this map. They are continuous and can be crossed through passes only. So the Western Ghats are higher than the Eastern Ghats. Their average elevation is 900 to 1600 meters. So the Western Ghats cause our orographic rain by facing the rain bearing moist winds to rise along the western slopes of the Ghats. So here you can see the most Western Ghats are known by different local names. So the highest peaks include Anaimudi and the Dodda Betta also. On the fringes of the west coast of India extending 1500 to 1600 kilometers. So 6 states will be including in this Western Ghats. Those are Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa and Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So it is a home for 50 million people, and the source is water for the entire peninsular India. So it retains only 7% of original forest cover. It is a world hottest hotspot of biodiversity. And coming to the Eastern Ghats. So the Eastern Ghats run from the West Bengal state in the north and through the Orissa and Andhra Pradesh to Tamil Nadu in south. It is an average elevation of 600 meters, and the Eastern Ghats are discontinuous and irregular and is selected by the rivers like Godavari, Mahanadi, Krishna and Kaveri. So draining into the Bay of Bengal. They are draining from east to Bay of Bengal. So here Mahendragiri, that is the highest peak in this area, that is 1501 meters. So what are the key features of Eastern Ghats? So major portions in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh it lies, and is a discontinuous mountain system running from West Bengal to Tamil Nadu, and watershed of many important rivers. It will be helpful, and several important protected areas also will be there, and it is rich in minerals like a bauxite and etc. And it is a home to many particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So these are the peninsular hills of the peninsula in India. See, these are the Aravali hills, Vindhya, Satpura and Harishchandra range, and Nilgiri hills, Dodda Betta, we will talk the Annaimudi and Annaimalai hills. These are the most important hills in the peninsular region. So you can see this Udak Mandal, Ooty and Kodaikanal, Sheveri and Javadi hills and Aravali hills. These are the very famous hills in this region. So some places of the Deccan Plateau experience semi-arid climate, while other places have warm climate. So here we have main features of the peninsular plateau. It is a tableland composed of the old crystalline and igneous and the metamorphic rocks. It is formed due to the breaking and drifting of the Gondwana land. It has broad and shallow valleys and rounded hills. It consists of two broad divisions, namely that is Central Highlands and Deccan Plateau. The Deccan Plateau is higher in the west and slopes gently eastwards. And the next point, that is the Indian Desert. So the Indian Desert, if we say that we will be remind that is Thar Desert. So to the northwest of the Aravali hills lies the Great Indian Desert. It is the land of undulating topography dotted with the longitudinal dunes and barchans, and it is because of these characteristic features that this is also known as Marshuli. It is believed that during the Mesozoic era, this region was under the sea. So the lakes and the plains have brackish water, which is the main source of obtaining salt. Coming to the eastern coastal plains. So large rivers such as the Mahanadi and Godavari and the Krishna and Kaveri have formed extensive delta of this coast. So here you can see this delta picture, delta how it will forms. So Lake Chilika is an important feature along the eastern coast. It is the largest salt water lake in India. So a delta is a low triangular landform of alluvial deposits at the mouth of a river where that river flows into an ocean or a large body of water. Here you can see the meaning of delta also, this one. And Western Ghats. So here western coastal plains of India are located in the west of India between the Western Ghats and the Arabian Sea on a narrow strip of land. So here we can find they extend from Gujarat in the north and down 50 km to the south in Kerala. So the western coastal plains are smaller than their eastern counterpart, and the region is divided into three parts. Those are the western coastal plains are divided into three regions, that is Konkan, Kanara and the Malabar coast. So these three parts are divided from the western coastal plains. So they are characterized by the numerous backwaters and rivers that flow into the region. So these rivers that flow into the region lead to the forming of estuaries and that are found in the western coastal plains of India. So the maximum storm activity on the western coastal plains occur in the month of March. So this is the Chilika Lake of example that is situated in Orissa. So coming to the island groups of India. So you can see this Karavati Islands and all. So these are the island groups of India. So here Lakshadweep Islands. So there are 36 coral islands that constitute Lakshadweep Islands. Only 10 are inhabited and only 6 have been opened for tourism. So their total land area is 32 kilometers, and these islands forms of coral deposits. We can find the most coral deposits in these islands and are called atolls. Atolls are circular or horseshoe shaped coral reefs. Coming to the here also the most important activity was happened in the Barren Islands in volcano. So here importance of Barren Island is situated at the Andaman Sea, and it is the only confirmed active volcano in India. This holds a major importance in keeping the continental climate stable and the annual temperature variation. It happened in May 3rd, 2019. Coming to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, it lies in this strategically important zone, meaning that India with its growing naval capabilities could play a significant role in controlling access. So Dovan said that India needed to deploy naval assets to the islands for the surveillance in important sea lines of communications. So these Andaman and Nicobar groups are great economic and strategic importance of the country, like tourism potential, security, trade and migration, and other control on Indian Ocean. So with this I am going to end the chapter. We will meet in the next video. Thank you for watching.